I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Dungeons & Dragons takes a really long time. A week in-game can take months to play out in real life, and that's if your party even has a consistent schedule. And that's why notes are so important. We can't trust our memories to know what happened in the plot 4 years later in our long campaign. And the longer your campaign is, the more and more confusing notes can try to be to look back through. Now, recently, my PC decided that it needed to factory reset, and I didn't have a backup copy of my notes for my 3-year-long campaign. Oopsies, never having that problem again. But that's alright, because this gave me the perfect opportunity to really question what I actually should be putting in my notes, and reorganizing them to be way more efficient to look through going forward. So in this video, we're going to go through how I now organize my notes. When I was thinking back on what was in my notes, I realized it came down to 3 categories, but that it would be way better if I could drop one of these types of notes, the useless information type. I was honestly taking down way more information than I needed to. Things like what everyone did on their turn, who killed monsters, role-playing conversations that just didn't serve a ton of purpose, and anything that just doesn't fall into my upper 2 categories really belongs in this one. If it doesn't have a use to me, why am I even writing it down? All it's gonna do is clog down my notes and make them harder to look back. So we're gonna try and cut down on that, but I'm sure some will still get in. So what do I keep then? Well, the next category is an interesting one. This is where some things might be from the useless information notes for one player, but they might actually be important to a different group of players. The memory bin. This group has no hard or fast rules. Whatever you actually want to look back on from your games goes here. For me, it's funny moments and keeping track of who did the most damage in a single turn, or just the highest rolls we managed to make, or just dumb-sounding things that I did in combat, or my collection of useless junk. This category is so personal and different for every player, and it's so often overlooked. This is the group that you're more likely to look back on years after you stop playing the campaign, when you want to think about the fun times you had in the campaign. Though we might want to store it in a separate location to make it not a hassle to scroll through when we're searching for the final category. But think of it as a way of things that you can look back on and feel good about. The final category is one we all know about, the useful information. This will include anything we might want to reference in the future. The key to this category, though, that my old notes really lacked, was easy searchability. We need this group to be so well organized that we can find information easily from forever ago. So let's get into how I currently have optimized my useful information. Okay, are you ready to feel called out? Yeah, good. Okay, labeling your sessions as Session 1, Session 2, Session 3 is a recipe for disaster. So many of us go and label by number. But can you remember what you ate for breakfast on June 4th? Because I sure can't. We don't remember things through numbers, and we hardly remember things through full dates. We remember them by the moments that happened. Yeah, sure, I can't remember what I ate June 4th, but if I was reminded about the fact that I made a breakfast sandwich and the egg burst and sprayed everywhere, I'll remember that moment. So when you're labeling your session, yeah, sure, start with what week or what session number it is, but then give a descriptive thing that you remembered from the session. What you did, a funny moment, what NPC was there, or a mix of multiple things. For example, looking back on the first entry after my computer was reset, I remember what happened. On week 75, because of my labeling, saying, Drained Temple, Sea Monk Shrine Part 3, and When a Zorb Happened to You, I remember that we went to a temple in the Black Lake, where the sludge had been slowly draining from it to reveal more of the temple floors. I stole a petrified guy's finger in defiance to my party, and we found some black pudding, which are ooze-like creatures. I got trapped in one of them, and we made jokes about how my character also eats through absorption, and so we're basically eating each other as we are combined together for a bit. and we tracked down the general location of an ancient artifact that turned out to be a Horn of Valhalla. Now, if I go and open it, yeah, we can see that's exactly what happened from my notes. All it takes sometimes is just a little reminder of what you actually did in the session to make your memory way better about it. Now that we have all our things labeled well, let's make these session notes even easier to look through with simple color coding. The information I tend to need the most when looking back on notes is locations, NPCs, leads, items required. But just in case we need anything else that is not covered here, I like to keep a label that is just called important things. This way, if I don't remember what happened in the session, I can very quickly open it, and I can see exactly where we were, what we were doing, what we got, and what we found out about. This quick scan of information will help you so much if you have like 50 sessions to quickly look through, to try to find the exact thing you need. But I don't just stop at the notes. Where notes are great for full context, they aren't the easiest thing to look through. This is where Kanbans and tables come in. Keeping a table for all the places you've been is super useful for quickly looking up names of places or important information about them. In your table, keep a section about what session you were there and what session you learned about it, for quick reference back to your main notes. And you can do the exact same thing with NPCs. If you're bad with names though, like I am, I highly recommend nicknaming the NPCs in your notes. Where I can't remember Cecilia for the life of me, I can remember that she's a cleric sea creature, or Chloe is the rat queen. Include any leads that the characters might have gave you or information you wish to keep about them. And in my notes, I will note that, these aren't currently labeled with session numbers, and that's because I lost my notes. And this is a lovely list sent to me by one of our players in the campaign who helped me repair my missing information. Now, finally, we're going to get into the Kanbans, and these are my favorite trick for D&D note-taking. It helps keep the information so easily organized. Like items, for example. I like to separate combat items, utility items, money items, and things we haven't sold, then just decorational roleplay things or things I keep on my personal character. This makes it so much easier to look through when I'm actually in session and I'm trying to figure out if I have something for the situation. With this method, you will no longer have items just sitting in a bag and forgetting to use them. And you could additionally make another list of items that you want, if your DM is someone who takes item requests. The final Kanban I use is our leads, separating them into multiple categories as well. Things that just Spore is interested in, things that are maybe going to come up soon in the campaign, things that are far off in the campaign. Remember to once again keep your session numbers attached to these so that you can quickly look at the references you need for them. You also might want to make a category for any special multi-step quests. For example, Spore was recently trying to get donations to banish the magical darkness weather effect from town. So I made a list of characters that I could go see about getting donations from, and used it to keep track of how much I managed to get from them. Leads and Kanbans are just so useful that I literally use them in both my player notes and my DMing notes. Seriously, try them out, they're fantastic. The final important thing I keep in my notes is just a page with all my spells and their actual wording, just in case we have a weird situation with a spell or I need a reminder on what they do. I have them organized and quick to look up. Now, you might have noticed that I have a little section labeled Rumors. It is specialized to this campaign, but honestly, if you're a DM, this is a really fun method to give your player leads and let them choose what they want to do by giving them a massive amount of things where they only choose to do some. As well, I also keep funny moments, and this is just where I keep track of those good old memories that I want to look back on in the future. Things like the time we managed to get a 40 on Intimidate, which if you're here for my normal 5e content, that might sound weird. So it's good to note that this game is in 3.5 with a mix of Pathfinder, so numbers can go a lot higher in it. Now, if you've stuck around to this point, I'd love to know what's the oldest fond moment you remember from a game you've played. And I hope this helps inspire you to keep your notes organized. Have a fantastic day.